when working with young trumpet players, it's important to watch their hand position to make sure that they can play the instrument as easily as possible. First, problems with the right hand start with the wrist. If the wrist is bent either one way or the other, it puts the hand in a position that is not relaxed. The right hand should be in a letter C, what I like to think as a soft C, not a claw or a hard C. So if you see this on the student, they're tense. That could be happening if their wrist is bent and their palm is close to the instrument. They should be able to see through their letter C. And that's what I tell the students. Make sure you can see the bell through your hand. The other problem also can be with the thumb. The right thumb, instead of being properly in between the first and second valve with the thumb pad touching the lead pipe, you'll see students sometimes bringing it on front of the first valve and up and through the lead pipe and the bell pipe. Instead, we need to see it like this, but they will be doing this. When they bring the thumb up, it once again is a sign that they're collapsing the right wrist. Then again, putting the hand in an awkward position for easy mobility. The right pinky. It's important that they're keeping the right pinky on top of the pinky ring. If it's in the pinky ring, there are two problems. One being that it makes it a little more difficult for the third finger to move quickly. And even worse is it gives them an opportunity to create lots of pressure on their mouthpiece, on the lips. In fact, trumpet players joke around that we have our own octave key, like the woodwinds. It's the pinky ring. So you want to watch out for that. One thing you could do to prevent students from using that, if you see them keep slipping in there, is either possibly taping over that, just actually close it up, or wrapping something in there, let's say taping a Lego inside, so they can actually feel something to remind them, oops, I'm in there, I got to go back on top. Another problem you'll see with the right hand could be one valve being pressed down by two fingers, sort of looking like this. I'll show it from this side. That happens because the palm, which should be facing the valve casing, starts to face the bell. And if you notice, by doing that, it brings a third finger away from the third valve, which allows them to then press two fingers to the second valve button. So make sure that they have their fingers on top of each button. The last thing with the right hand you'll see is sometimes these students will bring their fingers beyond the tops of the valves. You'll also see that because their right hand palm will collapse in and touch the side of the instrument or the lead pipe. And this makes it in a position that's a little too tense for quick playing. With the left hand, it's important that the arm and wrist and hand line up together so that the weight is sitting on the entire arm, not just on the wrist. So if you see the instrument tilting to one side or the other, they're playing like this or like this, that means they're banging the wrist. And after a while, it's going to be very tiresome on their arm. So remind them to keep their hand in line with their arm. Another problem that students will complain about is holding the instrument weight is if they're just holding it with the tips of the thumb and the index finger, which would look somewhat like this, where their palm is not anywhere near the valve casing. Want to make sure that the hand is far enough close to the instrument, like this. Another thing that you can make sure to remind them that the weight of the instrument is going to be resting between the big knuckle and the next biggest knuckle of the left index finger. So if I'm holding it, balancing it with my other hand just for a moment, you can actually see where the weight is supposed to be resting on, right below that the bell pipe. So the left hand will look like this, with the weight resting mostly on the index finger. Another problem you'll see with very young students is their hands are too small. In that case, they will not be able to move the third valve ring quickly or easily. So I've come up with something that'll help this problem. One is on student line instruments, the third valve will actually have the ring that can move. And if you want to make sure it'll never move again, once they find a really nice spot, not just twisting it with your fingertips hard, do this for them. Take a pair of pliers, you could put some tape over it, and clasp onto it so you don't scratch the metal, and give it a quarter turn. That quarter turn will make sure it never moves again until you want it to, using the pliers to loosen it. But you'll notice what I've done on this ring here is I've added vinyl foam weather seal. This is 3/8 wide. It's self-sticking tape, and I use it for sides of windows or also for doors. I've cut off approximately 1 inch long, and then I stuck it right inside. And for students who have very small fingers, they'll be able to then move it very easily. Otherwise, cheers, the finger will take time before it gets to the back side of the slide and then be able to move it out. So use that little trick of the trade for your young students. The same could be true with the thumb saddle if their instrument has one. You could actually bend these in, but I would suggest doing it very carefully or not at all. It does work well, but you don't want to hurt the instrument. So you could consider having a professional do that at a local music store if it is a problem for them controlling that slide. So those are the tips for making sure your students have the best hand position for easy playing.